FinTechTalk, the live webinar with no presentations, no PowerPoint, just talk.
Hello and welcome to FinTechTalk. I'm your host, Charles Orton-Jones. Today we're looking at the digital provision of services in wealth management. Now, clients want to take control of their investments. They want to be able to see both liquid and illiquid assets, and they want advice. Now, the provision of this is chaotic. There are so many different approaches. Some companies do it brilliantly, some do a terrible job. FinTechTalk, we wanted to know, what is the gold standard? What is the absolute best way of providing advice and services in a digital way? So our promise to you is always that we'll gather the leading experts from around the world. And this time we have delivered yet again. We have three of the world's most renowned experts in this field. So let me introduce our panel. We have Simon Alliott. Simon is the Managing Director of Synpulse 8, which is the product house of Synpulse Management Consulting. Many of you will know Synpulse. Synpulse 8 is devoted to the provision of very specialist banking and wealth management software to the industry. Simon is also the co-founder of the Open Wealth Association, which campaigns for a standard API for wealth management. Now, this was new to me. I assumed that everyone did their own thing, but Simon believes that standardization is the future of wealth management. And we will be talking to him about that. I'm very happy to welcome Kai Linder. Kai is the co-founder and co-CEO of Qplix. And Qplix is arguably the most respected provider of specialist platforms for wealth managers. Simon's also worked on the wealth management side. He's worked in a family office, and he's really an engineer at heart. He has a degree in computer science and a master's in software engineering. So Kai, so good to have you with us today. And I'm also very happy to say hello to Patrick Maurenbrecher. Patrick is one of the owners and CIO of Contora Family Office. Contora is based in Hamburg. It's one of the biggest wealth managers for families in Germany with more than 70 employees. So, panel, lovely to see you guys. And let me start by turning to you, Patrick. Now, this could be a big subject, so let's really narrow it down. What are we talking about here? The digital provision of services in wealth management. In your mind, what is the objective here?
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Thanks for having me. Maybe a short introduction in what Contora does and why a digital wealth management strategy matters to us. First of all, what do we actually do? We do three things. First of all, we are a family office for various entrepreneurial families. And we also provide services as an investment office. This is where we follow pretty closely the Yale endowment approach with a lot of illiquid investments like private equity, venture capital, real estate, and stuff like that. And then we have a third segment, which we call service office, where single family offices and other institutional clients actually outsource their bookkeeping, number crunching, and also running of a software for controlling and reporting to us. Well, with these three services, if you don't have digital answers and can provide a service that clients can access via the internet, you're basically out of service. So this is where we were looking for a software company that can actually help us delivering our services in a digital way to our clients. And the problem here is never if you only have a portfolio of liquid assets, because then you can actually work with the systems that banks provide you. But as soon as illiquid investment come into play, like venture capital or private equity, you definitely need something else. And the answer is usually not Excel, specifically if you come to something like 50 investments plus. We found a partner that we are very happy to work with. And maybe this is the moment where I hand over to Kai, who is that partner.
Yeah, Kai, tell us about Qplix, because you have the reputation of being one of the world's leading providers of platform to the wealth management industry. Just tell us about how complicated it is providing a really world-leading solution, what's involved in that, and what separates a world leader from someone just going through the motions.
Yeah. Sure, Charles. First, thank you for the invitation. And Patrick, thank you for the for the handover. So yeah, when we started Cublix, we had exactly in mind, Charles, what you described. So having a complex portfolio, especially in many different asset classes, can be quite chaotic or quite intense in terms of getting all your data together, making sure you compare the right things and you have all your information in one place. And this is exactly what we have built and what we are providing to our customers. So we try to kind of first connect to all different kind of data sources you might have, from all your custodian banks to your real estate managers to all other asset classes. Then we try to, or then we unify all this data, and then we provide this in a very kind of powerful analytics and reporting tool in order to help you to have all your data as in real time as possible and make the most and probably clever decisions based on that data. Yeah.
And
yeah, sure.
Just tell us, just to complete the picture, is it purely about offering clients the ability to assess their portfolio and research investment decisions, or is there any kind of robo-advice involved as well?
So it's not robo-advice involved, but kind of we provide the execution and order management platform. So you can not only use our platform in order to kind of consolidate your data and get a full picture, but also you can use our platform to rebalance your portfolios, create manage your strategies, and then of course execute your orders with certain counterparts.
Now, tell me, it does feel like a Wild West. Just tell me, how difficult do you think it is to have done what you do? I mean, how many rivals do you have, or do you feel that you have established a kind of a new benchmark?
So I think it's just kind of there's no standard out there. Just it sounds quite easy just to connect to all these different kind of custodian banks, gather the data, and then just put it in one big spreadsheet, and that's it. But that's not the case. Kind of financial instruments can be quite complex. There's no standard interface you can use with every bank. There's no standard existing in Germany, but also no worldwide standard you could use. So it's really kind of find a way to get and process the information from hundreds of different sources, and to make sure that they're 100% accurate, because that's what's needed by customers like Patrick in order to make their decisions. And that's only the kind of liquid part of your portfolio. And then when it comes down to illiquid asset, what could be, as mentioned, real estate or private equity, then of course it becomes even more complex, because the formats, the type of information, the frequency differs a lot. So, and of course there are thousands of providers of data out there, and you need to gather all this information and make sure it seamlessly fits in your calculations.
Fantastic. I'm just wondering what the kind of the scope of your coverage is. I mean, do you cover kind of all global markets? Are there some things that you haven't yet incorporated? Because it is a very difficult thing, putting all those tools under one roof.
So it's always, I think it would not be right always to say, you cover everything. That's probably something what is basically not possible. But yeah, from day one, our customers were kind of looking on all different kind of markets. So they were allocating their assets globally. So also kind of the data we had to deal with and the data sources we had to incorporate were global. So yeah, I would say we cover the most. We cover globally the most interesting sources, and yeah.
Fantastic. Perhaps at this moment I could bring in Simon, because we've talked about how chaotic it is building a system like this, but maybe there is a solution, and maybe that solution is standardization. So Simon, could you just just tell us something about your work with Simpulse 8, but also tell us about your work trying to create this standard API, and how far along that is. I have no information, so is that something we're on the brink of? Simon, what do you think?
Yeah, happy to do so. Yes, Simpulse 8, Simpulse is a global management consulting company. We serve actually wealth managers and banks worldwide, and I'm more on the, on the bank side, on the data provider side, where I have a lot of experience. And Kai is right. I mean, the world is chaotic. Every bank has its own interface. Some banks have really problem to keep up high data quality. And, in Switzerland, we founded the Open Wealth Association together with clients, which are banks, but also software providers like Cuplix, like Guy's company, who jointly work together on a standard in order to solve exactly that problem. Because connectivity, end of the day, neither for a bank nor for a wealth tech, as I like to call these companies, is something which they can differentiate in the long run. So connectivity, high data quality exchange over state-of-the-art interfaces via the internet without complicated technology, which is back-end to back-end connectivity, is getting a commodity. That's the belief of the Open Wealth associations, and we are defining a standard. And in Switzerland, we have a large community, 13 banks, which are in the association and supporting the standard and working together with wealth techs on a standard in order to exactly solve that problem. And, Kai is right. I mean, we are just at the beginning. We started in Switzerland. The first banks are live with the Open Wealth APIs and do their gathering their experience. But the adaptation of the APIs in Switzerland, but also we see a lot of demand, and we have a lot of talks in Asia, is increasing. And my belief is actually that the standard will really be used worldwide, and this is also solving a lot of the complexity behind delivering digital solution for wealth managers. Of course, I mean, Kai mentioned it doesn't solve all the problems. There are always special products which might need special treatments, but if you can cover 80-90% with the standard, you bring a lot of efficiency into actually the wealth management ecosystem. Everybody is profiting from it. The banks have less effort, they can highly automate it, they can reduce their cost, but also wealth tax end of the day. And my strong belief is if the efficiency gain in the value chain is reflecting then also in prices for wealth managers, meaning that also smaller companies than Patrick's company can afford these kind of systems in the long run, right?
So this is democratization. This means that everyone can participate, everyone can provide better services, and even the bigger companies save up a load of money because there's one standard way of doing things. Now tell me, what level of support have you got, though? You say you've got 13 members in Switzerland. Well, there are a lot of banks in Switzerland.
We have 13 banks which are member in Switzerland, about 50 wealth techs and other service providers, so about 60 members in total.
Good momentum. If someone's watching this and thinking, well, we're not members, what do they do?
They can approach me on LinkedIn or go to openwealth.ch and find the email address to contact us.
Okay, fantastic. And is this going to happen? Are you optimistic that it's an easy push, that once you've pitched this, people say, yes, we're on board with this? Or is there anyone who goes, no, we don't like the standardization, it's an affront to innovation, blah, blah, blah? What feedback do you get?
This is going to happen definitely, yeah. Of course, large financial institutions are slow in implementing change. We know that a large organization, budget processes. So until the decision they get member of Open Wealth and the API is live, some years. It depends on the organization, how agile they are. It will take, but they are all fully committed to do it. And we have really strong commitment also from tier one banks out of Asia and UK, which going to do that.
Fantastic. Now, perhaps I could turn to Patrick. I'm interested, Patrick, in what your clients use your platform for. I mean, what is it they're doing, and what can they do on your platform that they couldn't do with another organization? You know, you've got a reputation for being a sort of full service operator. So what is it that they're doing, Patrick, that they maybe couldn't do elsewhere?
Yeah, maybe let me get back to Simon for once. He said at the beginning of his statement that it's all about data quality, and I'm all in for that. But that's where, at the moment, the digitalization is actually only complete if you manage to get all the data into the system. And this, right now, on the illiquid side, is not even 50% there. If I look at the private equity portfolios of our clients, I mean, even the very large players, they provide the data via PDF files. So
really?
What you need is,
seriously, who's name and shame? Who's using PDF files?
All of them. I mean, what you have is the whole PDF, the whole private equity industry is actually operating with data rooms where you have to get in, and then you load down some files, and then you have to go manually and type in these numbers in your system. I mean, I assume and I hope that in 10 years' time, this will be a digital process. But the problem you have now is that it's not that way. So if you want to have all your wealth in one place, you need somebody who actually knows how to book, for example, all these capital calls, all the redemption, all the intricacies that the venture capital and private equity ecosystem provides. And I mean, if you look at your tax guys, I mean, they definitely don't like to book all this stuff because it doesn't happen too often to them. So at the end of the year, they book a lot of stuff, but private equity is a small part of that. And you ask about my team, this is where we are absolute experts. So I mean, if you want to have a digital strategy, you also need to look into how do all your data get into your system. So if you talk about real estate and all these other alternative investments, it probably will include that somebody who actually understands these investments knows how to book them. And that's where a service like Contora is very helpful, because you actually have the people who actually know how to book it, you have the software and you know how to handle it, and you have the investment guys who actually can also see where some of the stuff that the asset managers provide you might be wrong. For example, when you get one of these capital calls or something from a private equity firm, it's very often that these have some mistakes. So usually you book it like that, and then you only find out the mistake at the end of the year with your tax lawyer. But when you do it with a firm like ours, you see it straight away, because our guys reach out to the asset managers and say, are you sure this is right? So you have this kind of a double check system where you can actually do your work based on correct numbers.
I mean, the PDF that the data is transmitted by PDF, that's not only in the illiquid space effect. I mean, in Europe, there are most of the banks, they have some kind of interface, electronic interface, but in Asia, most of the data is transferred with PDFs, and there are companies specialized in just digitizing PDFs and distribute the data.
Pains me to hear it. Such a primitive, desperately poor way of doing anything. So perhaps we could turn to Kai again, because he is the expert here. So yeah, I mean, PDFs, converting PDFs. Give us a feel for the challenges. Kai, in the work that you do, what do you feel is the most challenging thing that you have overcome? Where's the really unpleasant area? So you can warn others. So if people are watching this and think, yeah, I work for a wealth manager and we're absolute garbage in this particular area, maybe you can reassure them and say, no, it's actually incredibly difficult to do. So what is the most difficult thing that you've had to overcome?
I mean, I think what was already mentioned is kind of this data gathering, so getting the information. So that's of course one thing, and it's also something where kind of solutions like open wells are super helpful because they just make this connection thing much easier. And the other thing, what is probably similar as complex, is kind of understanding all these different kind of transaction. And when we just look at liquid assets, there are kind of many different kind of corporate actions, many different kind of things that can happen in a portfolio, but that's simple compared to kind of the illiquid asset world where kind of nearly everything can happen, and you can have complete different structures. And what we try to provide, and what is quite, I think what is challenging, is just to support all these different kind of asset classes in depth. So really understand what kind of transaction, as Patrick mentioned, can happen in a private equity fund, what kind of transaction can happen with your real estate, what kind of transactions can happen when you have a direct investment into a company, and understanding this, and at the other hand, but standardizing it in a way that you can still compare between the asset classes. Because what we, in a kind of a company like Patrick's, what we typically see is you have experts in these certain asset classes, so they tend, they like to see their numbers, they like to see all the information they need to judge their investments and their opportunities. And then there are of course people looking at their overall portfolio and comparing where the opportunities, where to allocate whatever next quarter or so on. So kind of doing both, being super detailed in depth in order to support these experts, and at the other hand, creating an overview that is kind of still understandable and can be used for the overall portfolio management. I think that's a big challenge.
And tell me about the kind of the user base. I mean, we're used to high net worth individuals having access to this kind of service, and if someone's using a family office, it suggests they're fairly well off in life. But in the theme of democratization, to what degree are we going to start to see, I don't know, retail banks offering this kind of really high-end service? I mean, maybe the user base doesn't want it, maybe they can't handle it, maybe it's too much for them. In your view, who is the market audience for this?
I mean, I think at the end, what especially kind of our platform, and together with partners like Patrick, are offering this kind of transparency on your financial situation, on your financial wealth, and of course also when your portfolio moves up or down, what are the reasons for that, what to do better, what has been great, and stuff like that. And I think that's basically something kind of a lot of people would be interested in, I think. And when this technology becomes more and more available, and also kind of getting the data and getting easier, and of course at the end also cheaper, I think that's something where a broad audience would be interested, just to have this clearance and transparency about their situation.
Yeah. Can I ask you about the ease of implementation? I mean, as we know, banking, digital transformation is notoriously expensive, takes forever, and everyone has a panic attack when they think about it. So a lot of people watching this may think, our digital systems aren't great. In fact, they're pretty old and cobbled together with spaghetti systems. But installing a new interface sounds like a total nightmare. What can you tell people who are thinking, maybe we could install a new platform, maybe we could go with Qplix, maybe we go with someone else? How do you sell it to people? It's the honest version.
I think the honest version is, I mean, if your portfolio is complex, of course, it's something you need to talk about. But at the end, especially these digital interfacing, making it much easier, because before that you had to kind of probably go to your whatever storage room and fetch out all the old documents or all these old Excel spreadsheets and somehow incorporate them in a new system. And now we can just set up a connection to your custodian banks and receive all the historical data, because we have experience doing that goes super fast. And then you have kind of not only your current portfolio, but hopefully also all your historical trades in one system, and you can start working with this, and then add kind of illiquid assets from time to time, and of course Controller, they have a lot of experience doing this for their customers in the onboarding. So I think compared to it, how it has been kind of like 5 years ago, it's much simpler and it can be super fast.
Fantastic. Now, Patrick, I'd like to know how your relationship with your clients has changed now that you're able to offer them this kind of access to their investments. Because they can log in, they can see everything, they can manipulate things, they know how the markets are moving, they can see global opportunities. How has that changed the way your clients behave, Patrick?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to keep in mind global portfolios have always been around or have been around for a long time, no matter how you document them or what system you use. But what we do see is where the owners, they might be 60, 70 years plus. I mean, they're used to getting PDF documents for years or tens. I mean, but they've been working with that for ages. But now the next generation comes along and they only know that they can see everything they want to see on their iPhone. So when their dad shows them a PDF report and says, look, daughter, I show you this is the wealth we have at the family, they're kind of irritated and say, what the hell is this? I mean, my reporting looks better from my bank than what you show me for our complex family wealth. So basically, if we as a family office would not be able to provide a digital service for the next generation, we're basically out. I mean, this will basically mean that they wait till the wealth is theirs in a way, and then they say goodbye to us because it's not the way they want to work. So it's just the normal thing now. I mean, what we actually do is all our clients can have a look at their dashboard 24/7 on all assets, and our team they usually, when information comes in that's not digitally provided, it takes about 2-3 days, and then it's all in the system. So they can have a live experience in a way. And then still quarterly, they will get a big book with the numbers that are also then relevant for the tax lawyers, etc. But maybe one thing as a remark to what Kai said, I don't know a single person that actually likes IT migration. I mean, I'm sorry, Kai, but it's not something people enjoy, and I think it's not the seamless thing, and especially not with complex wealth. It's complicated, it's hairy details, and onboarding is a pain in the ass. I mean, that's what it is. But still, we've done it many, many times, and so it's actually quite a smooth process now. And maybe, Charles, you said something about the democratization of wealth management. There don't seem to be a straight line between the bigger the wealth, the better the IT solution for it. I mean, we have done a migration where a guy with an assistant has done his investing career for 30, 40 years, and it all happened in an Excel sheet. And I mean, what is in that Excel sheet? It's historical figures of how much they paid for a house or a company or whatever. And it has nothing to do with reality. There's no NAV logic in those systems. So, and then again, you meet somebody who has, I mean, this might be a billionaire actually. And then you talk to somebody who has also a large wealth in everyone's mind, but compared to that, it might be small, but it's all there in beautiful systems, So we see it happening all the time.
Just tell me, because you're an interesting size, Contora. You have, I don't know, over 70 employees, which is, it's not tiny, but, it's not, you're not UBS, are you? You haven't got employees. You can't just throw 1,000 people at a project. So, I mean, the fact that you're able to do this as a smaller organization, in a way, tells us something. That Contora is very forward-thinking, but also the fact that really anyone ought to be able to do this. I mean, if Contora has the resources to do it, there's no excuse for larger people to be operating with such substandard systems, is there?
That's true. I mean, we're a bootstrap company. We are 16 years old, and on our Qplex system, I think it's something like 7 billion of assets under advisory now. So I don't know if that's, I mean, it's very little compared to the US you mentioned, but I think it's not small either. But it's also I mean, it depends on which services you provide. I mean, for the service office stuff where we, in a way, just do the bookkeeping, those are large numbers that are on that service. And it doesn't mean that that's like assets under management, which, would be a different kind of profitability too.
I mean, maybe I need to talk here a little bit for financial institutions. I mean, a UBS is covering with their wealth management client and the advisory client the full value chain. They have a bookkeeping. They do the custody. They provide the banking license in the back, whereas Contora is doing the top of the value chain, which is I mean, I don't want to make it small, and I think that this is also great that actually in wealth management these kind of ecosystems exists long time before standards and open API exists. So that this disaggregation of value chain, that the people like Contora really specialize in what they can do good, and the rest of the value chain is done by banks, right? I think, when it comes to democratization of wealth, here we are talking, if it is the billionaire or the millionaire, we are talking about wealthy people, right? But for me, democratization, and this is also what we see with our banking clients, which we serve, is that they want to offer similar services, of course, not with the full whistles and bells, to affluent clients. So if you have your 200,000 portfolio, that you get a kind of a similar experience than a wealthy client, and that's democratization of wealth. And the cheaper actually connectivity and the processing gets, the more such solutions are possible, because you don't have the same margins, of course, as well with affluent clients.
Can I ask you guys about the influence of certain consumer apps? Patrick, you talked about the fact that younger family members are just not going to be regarding PDFs as acceptable. But I'm just wondering whether you guys get any inspiration from some of the more consumer apps. I mean, Monzo in the UK was revolutionary really because of its just ease of use. I mean, Steve Jobs would have loved the initial app when it came out because a chimpanzee could use it. It was so easy to use. So, perhaps I could just ask you, whether there are any, consumer grade apps out there that you think are distracting maybe wealthier people just because they're so easy to use and setting a standard. Simon, is there anything that springs to mind for you?
Do you want to hear examples? Or I think, here are many banks, but also wealth techs and wealth techs which really have a direct to customer offering, not like Qplex, who is actually servicing wealth managers. So the user of the software is another company than the service provider. Here, I think there is a lot of movement of fintechs who are going actually in this affluent space and bringing really quite a lot of good services to affluent clients. I mean, I know a few examples in Switzerland, like Alpien. There is Fontobel, for instance, with an own offering. Many of the big wealth management brands in Switzerland are going into that direction. Even also external asset managers, which are not holding a banking license, are providing, this kind of, you mentioned before, this kind of robo-advisory, but it goes further. It's some kind of a hybrid advice with robo-advice components, but still you are able to chat with an advisor or do a video call with an advisor. These kind of things are coming up, yeah.
Okay, and Kai, perhaps I could ask you about the the aesthetics of Qplix. Again, I mean, who do you take inspiration from, and how do you judge how easy it is to use? Because it's all very good providing tools, but it's no good if people have to take a 3-week tutorial in using a platform. So how do you assess the usability of your platform?
So I would say first, kind of that's kind of one of the big advantages of this digital world that, Patrick mentioned that when you have this kind of quarterly reporting and then you send out books or you send out pretty page-heavy PDFs just in order to cover all possible questions. And I think that's the super thing when you have digital reporting. You can just start with an easy to understand, super high-level overview, and then you can dig deeper on all the questions you're interested in, or stop there if you have no further questions. And I think that's what we love most, and that's also how most of our customers are doing it. So they provide kind of an overview, what is quite similar to what you would or what you have seen in these kind of more retail-like apps, and then also adding the depths in order to see, okay, this is the current value of my real estate, and I'm fine with this, and this is the rental income I had last quarter, and that's it. Or you want to dig deeper and see, okay, where it's exactly coming from, who has paid the rent, and where there might be problems, or do you have any space left you can rent out, and all this kind of detailed questions you could also possibly ask, and you might ask from time to time, but probably not every time you open the app. So yeah, I think what we try to offer is kind of the best of both worlds. We try to offer this kind of simple and super easy to use experience, but also the depths you might need from time to time in order to answer questions or dig deeper. And actually, we're also providing the platform for some of these wealth techs, like Simon mentioned, where they use our platform, and then maybe they use our user interface, or they create their own user interface to have their own customer experience. But still, I mean, there's no reason for them to do kind of the heavy lifting tech in the background again. So they can use our platform for that. So basically, then we would use for some information the Open Wealth API, consolidate all this data from that API, but all other different sources, and then provide one unified API for someone to build a kind of super nice looking consumer app, for example, or use our app if they want.
We actually have a question from the audience. Tobias Schultz asks, I wonder if we can just put this on screen. Patrick, if I could pass this to you, I'm not sure I totally understand it. How do you see it with more and more requests of the customers of data, like the fund look through data for investment funds?
Yes. Thank you for that question, Tobias. I find that very important. For example, I mean, this is a thing you can also, you don't even need to look at illiquid stuff. You can look at stock portfolios, for example, and then you put them next to each other, and you see all of them have, say, Meta or Alphabet or like the same names. And it's very important to have a look through, because if you don't do it, you don't have a real view on the risk you have actually, or the concentration you're actually having in your portfolio. So it's a very important feature that you need to have. But then again, you also have to, I mean, for example, we had one client, or we still have that client. He has a portfolio with a lot of future bookings and options and all sorts of things you can imagine in a liquid market. And he wanted to have it booked in a transparent way. And of course, we did it. And it was, I mean, actually took a lot of effort to do it, or it takes a lot of effort to do it every time. And that's all fine. I mean, he pays for it. But this transparency, the question is, what does it actually bring to this client? If you do it again and again and again, because sometimes simplicity is also something that's very important. And maybe maybe one thing back to the question before, Charles, when you said, what about these playful apps that you have for all kinds of consumers? I have really mixed feelings about this, because what actually everybody should be thinking about when thinking about wealth is about investing and not speculation. And many of these playful apps actually, they help you speculate on some stocks. That's what people do. And so it actually plays to the wrong side of your behavior, because it doesn't lead to the accumulation of wealth. Often it actually leads to the contrary. I mean, it's a different question from the look-through thing, but it ends up in the same thing, which is, don't invest in too complicated stuff, and try to keep it simple, and don't trade too often.
Absolutely. Well, perhaps we just end with another question from our audience, from Sebastian Deck. I think it just sums it up. Let's talk about the concrete benefit of a comprehensive wealth management platform. Is there a business case, he asks. Patrick, what is the business case? Well, what does it bring to your business?
Well, when I talk about my business, or the business of Contora, what you actually, I mean, this is not a high margin business if we just do the bookkeeping and running the Cuplex software. But what it actually does, it creates a lot of trust with your clients, because this is something nobody actually wants to do. I mean, what is actually happening in single family offices and also many institutional settings is very high paid people. They have to look how to get data into their system, and then on top of this, what they do, actually take decisions. So our business is to say, well, what about you think about the strategic decisions, and let us do all your administrative stuff. So for us, this is a numbers game. If we just run a lot of this, it works well, and it's in business talk, it's a very high customer lifetime value. Because, I mean, if you have this complicated wealth on your system, usually the clients never leave.
Fantastic. And Kai, how do you pitch to people? Let's talk about the business case here. When people huff and puff, and as Patrick said, people are always reluctant to introduce some radical new software platform. Kai, how do you put the business case to potential clients for Cuplex?
I think two things. So first, I think I can totally agree to what Patrick said, and at that kind of then our case would be, we tell Patrick, okay, use your highly skilled people to solve their hard problems and to work on the things that cannot be automated yet, and leave the rest to us, and we make sure it works smoothly. We connect to all these kind of different data providers, and of course it's much more efficient and of course cheaper to do this using a platform like ours than beside trying to do it by your own. Also because it's not only building it, but also of course maintaining it and developing it further. And I think the other thing, it's always important to have kind of a clear picture of your portfolios, of your risk, of all different factors in order to make smart decisions. So, and that's something where we can help with. And I think third thing is, of course, I mean, we try only to process each information once, and then provide all the artifacts you need for your different tasks. So for your portfolio management, for your reporting, maybe also for your accounting, for some regulatory stuff also. So I think at the end we reduce complexity, and I think we make it also kind of at the end cheaper to offer the same service on a higher level of quality, because I think the level of detail you can get in terms of information from a platform like ours is differs to what you could achieve by just maybe using Excel sheets or something like that.
Massively. And really, Simon, just to finish, so give us the pitch here, because Synpulse 8 deals with banks and wealth managers who'd love to upgrade, but are maybe limited their ambition. How do you put the business case to them?
End of the day, if you invest in integration capabilities and modern interfaces, that's what we do as Synpulse 8, and we also build on top for banks, applications to grow into the affluent space. But the investment in an integration stack is actually be ready for the future, because it saves you money in the long run. Now you are on mute, Charles.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for your expertise. Hugely appreciated. We will be here next episode, FinTech Talk, on the 26th of September at 4 p.m. UK time. We're talking about assessing client suitability and sustainability as an engine for growth. But today, I've learned a huge amount. Simon, I loved your points about standardization. Kai, I'm just so impressed by the breadth and variety of your platform. And Patrick, always a pleasure to talk to you. It's lovely hearing about what Contura is doing, really setting a new standard in the way that clients are treated. So for myself and everyone here at FinTech Talk, goodbye.